controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are a science here to make things make sense.
Botox. Snatched.
Are
Pulled
you feeling
tight.
snatched? How do you feel? I feel like this kind of conversation about Botox has been evolving in our life as we quote unquote age.
Yeah, I don't know. For the listeners, feels like once
Do
you
we need
turn
Botox?
30, people start talking and getting Botox.
Yes, I was thinking about while researching for this episode. I recently was talking to a friend and they were pointing out wrinkles on people's heads, and I was
What?
just recently I don't know, I feel like people have pointed out to me what it looks like when somebody has Botox, which I've never really noticed before. It's never occurred to me that a Botox head, for example, a Botox forehead
head.
like just doesn't move, and that, you know, if you were watching an older person speak and their forehead's not moving, it's because they have Botox. Because it's not like plastic surgery where it's always so visibly obvious on
Yes.
the face.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just the lack of movement. And so now it's one of those things like when you learn a new word and suddenly you hear it everywhere, because I've been exposed to the idea that if you look at someone's forehead when they're talking and it's not moving and wrinkling, they probably have Botox or they have really young, healthy skin.
Wow. Okay. So we really thought about this recently too when we watched Mare of Easttown with Kate Winslet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're about to say things about Kate Winslet this is very Daily Mail energy because this does not have any founding in true
This part,
honesty.
yeah, we'll have some science, but
we watched Mare of Easttown and her forehead is moving beautifully. The most incredible actress, one of the best actresses of our generation, IMO. Better than the men, so I say actor, but any actor. I am not Kate Winslet head since I saw her titties in Titanic.
Greg is a stan.
Changed my life. Anyways,
He literally said to me, you know
I
what,
can't
Mitch,
breathe.
I would actually go through her IMDb and just watch everything from start to finish if you want. Earnestly. I was maybe, but I don't know if I want to watch everything.
why not? Mare of Easttown, objectively, pretty good show. Great show because of her. Every single project she does is going to make the show great. I've also seen most of them. As I went through, I was like, I've seen them all.
Okay, I know that you're right, but it's like a very interesting. There's so many other things we want to watch, could watch it if we start watching every Kate
My
Winslet
God.
movie and
I
TV
love
thing.
the side note of this. Just like episode on Kate Winslet.
Okay,
Let's go
back-
hard.
yeah, true, but back to Botox.
Her forehead is moving. Her face is moving so much. It's so important.
Because the character itself is meant to be a middle-aged woman. who's
she's
like
rough
from
around
a
the
small
edges.
town, rough as like a character, older as a character, and it shows on her expressions as well.
Okay, so then we watch interviews with her after, and we go, her forehead's not moving. So that I don't want to ever. I'm not dragging.
Not
I'm not.
disparage,
No more
no.
speculation about Kate Winslet, best actor of all time. We're moving on. So we were like, that's when we also started to be like, what? Oh my God, is that
Like, does
Botox?
she
And then we
use
really
Botox?
started to like get curious about it from there. I'm going to now explain what Botox is and how maybe actors might plan because of the way it degrades. Oh, I'm actually going to get Botox now because I'm on a bit of a 3-month hiatus from acting.
Or depending on your character, right? Like you may also want it for a movie, but she clearly was playing a person that wouldn't have had Botox.
Sorry, I'm saying like, you're right, but I'm saying regardless if you're trying to act, it might be a character thing. I was more just trying to make the point like you can plan Botox around your acting career to like pull off
explain to us
face.
how it works, and then that might help us understand why you can plan it like that.
Okay, cool. So the bacteria that causes it is called Clostridium botulinum. So that sounds kind of scary, but it's a rod
doesn't
shape.
it say Botox stand for botulism toxin?
No, yes. It does. And actually, a lot of people who are really into Botox will be calling it by like the brand names of it. But Botox is what we're going to be saying today. So the bacteria that creates it is like a rod-shaped bacteria, and it produces a protein that causes neurotoxicity. But there's many types of botulism toxins. There's A, B, C1, C2, D, E, F, and G. And it's A that we'll be focusing on when we talk about wrinkles. Because a lot of these other types can be very dangerous. It was first discovered in 1895 by Emil van Ruthengarten.
Very dangerous because they're literally toxins, right? So it's kind of like, what is the perfect amount that maybe isn't harmful is what people were trying to figure out?
Or it's more the mode. It's the type and it's the mode of getting it. It's like a lot of it is happening in like spoiled food. So when you consume it into your gut, it actually is able to go into your bloodstream and shut down your body.
Okay.
And so
if you were to just consume
like eat it. literally.
botulinum toxin.
Yeah, and again, it's all about strains. Like certain ones thrive on old eggs, or like certain ones thrive on ham. Like it was discovered from an outbreak of cured ham in 1895. So it's like a bacteria that creates this toxin that, when ingested, depending on the type, can slowly paralyze your whole body. So like when you hear about botulism toxin, or like just botulism, sorry, that's the disease of like people slowly dying because they've consumed the toxins that we're going to be talking about injecting into your face, which is a much different way of like consuming something into your body. So that's an important key.
And I'm just going to clarify, because I think I said it wrong first and now we're saying it wrong. Botulinum toxin causes botulism.
Okay, yeah.
You know what
but
I
it
mean?
also is Botox.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, like it literally is Botox. Like it is kind of crazy. And I think part of my fear around it is just that, like the science of it, and knowing, even though it is quite a safe procedure in your face. So what it does, I'm going to use the face explanation, not the like killing you slowly if you eat it. So
which feels more practical.
It feels more practical, and it is really
Relevant.
interesting. And it's essentially a cellular biology lesson. So what happens is when you get Botox, botulism toxin, injected into your skin.
Botulinum toxin.
Botulinum. What am I saying?
Botulism.
Oh, sorry. Botulinum toxin into your face. It actually is able to be, through endocytosis, absorbed into the axon of specific neurons that use acetylcholine as their neurotransmitter. So neurotransmitters are these chemicals that let's use this example. They go from the axon of one neuron to the dendrite, or to the other, like to the next neuron, through this thing called a synapse. So this little chemical leaves the axon, goes to the next one, that signals it to fire. And it's like this constant sort of like thread of all of this firing is what makes everything in your body move. But you need acetylcholine to bind to the membrane of the axon. The vessel that holds acetylcholine to bind to the membrane of the axon to release the acetylcholine. So what botulinum toxin does is, through a series of cellular biological processes in your axon, stops that vessel that's containing acetylcholine to bind to the axon's membrane to then get released. So essentially the axon now is not releasing the signal to continue to fire onto the next dendrite, but it just stops. It can't bind. The toxin's there in the way. It's like a very specific membrane protein that it just sort of like binds to and degrades. And all of a sudden, there's no more acetylcholine firing, and you're no longer using that neuron. The neuron is
just
off.
like not firing anymore.
Yes. So you're turning off the neurons in your face, specific parts of your face that are moved a lot when you're talking, which is actually causing the wrinkles. It's like preventative, but also causes the wrinkles to decrease because your face is literally just like not moving. So it does degrade over time. It's like a 3 to 6 month process. There's really no serious complications. There can be bruising, there can be these things that happen, but and in rare cases it can actually like maybe like, I mean, I kind of was reading tons of studies and it was like not even really worth scaring people about it. Like,
yeah, I think it's probably a pretty well-established medical practice at this point. That is, obviously there might be some risks. I mean, it's probably akin to other even aesthetic surgeries that, you know, are generally pretty safe, and you're changing your body. It's not like absolutely changing you in some way.
Yeah,
it's more just like you could do it and it doesn't make you better or worse.
It's like unintended facial paralysis, trouble swallowing, things like that, but they go away too because it actually gets degraded. Like I never knew that. I always thought it was in you forever. That's like the Kate Winslet thing of it all. It's like I didn't know you could like get it and then 6 months later all of a sudden your neurons are
so
back.
You could try it to see if you like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just like I've been very scared of Botox under the impression that that's how it works, and then doing a bunch of research, I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize. Even though everyone's like it's preventative or like I don't know, it just sounds scary, and like they teach you how botulinum toxin works in like first year cell biology, and it scares you because you study it and it's like a very intense biological process you have to memorize.
Like, oh, I understand that it's toxic and this is what it's doing. But I'll kind of bring this up in the stuff I'm going to talk about research, is that toxic things, it's often the dose is the poison, right?
Yeah.
So obviously as we become more precise in our science and precise in the way that we can administer something, it's like it is a toxin, but obviously so is a lot of medicine if you take too much of it.
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
So it's changing.
So is broccoli if you eat too much.
Exactly. So, I mean, toxin can be a relative term. I think it's generally reserved for things that in low doses can cause harm.
Yeah, and it's
but-
turning off muscles too. That's the other thing. I was only explaining the neurons, but those neurons are attached to muscles and cause movement. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like so that's why. And it's like, and they're thinking it could help with migraines. Where I'm like, hello, that's what I get.
Yes,
excessive sweating. Hello, that's what I get. So I'm gonna be getting Botox, but it might be in like the weird places.
Up the armpit.
Yeah, like the armpit, like on the back of my head. Yeah, yeah. And
Into the brain.
It stops jaw clenching, which I also do. So, honey, I'm like, get the Botox in all of my body right now.
Oh my gosh. So do you think you will get Botox at some time in your life? I'm curious because I want to be in this space. I want to be non-judgmental. I don't think obviously.
Well, okay, let's just say it. Like a lot of our friends are getting Botox. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a gay. Know what it definitely
not
is?
just gay,
a white
girls
thing.
as well. And not that girls can't be gay. I just mean our girlfriends are straight
but,
as well.
Sorry, like, but I'm it's coming at us from all angles because we're gays, being out with girls and gays, and there's like a lot of it going on. I'm not saying that straight guys don't, but I'm like, all I can say is from my own experience, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, is this a us thing? Because there's a lot of similar pressures on women and gay men about like our like bodies and aging, sadly. But I think that like I don't know. I just like I don't know. I definitely always thought never. But now as I'm getting older and
I think
more
everyone
of my
thinks
friends
never.
are doing it, I'm like, well, I don't know. Am I like the not odd one out?
Yeah, am I going to be the old looking one then?
Yeah, but no, what I was going to say is it's a very white thing because of what we've learned about with aging, which is that wrinkles are a very like Caucasian issue, and that aging for different diverse people, it could be like changing in pigmentation of the skin, which Botox does not help with. There's other things that other people are looking towards that it's like
aging is relative.
yeah, it's like a lot of our white friends who also were white, like our skin, like we age like shit. Sorry, hon, it's scientifically proven. But, you know, we look gross. We literally look grosser. And so like when we get older, especially when it comes to wrinkles. So
Yeah, I definitely don't have a problem with anyone getting Botox. For myself, I don't know. I kind of bounce back and forth between the idea of, you know, of course I love the idea of appreciating age as a beautiful thing.
yeah,
and
I can't believe it. It's like gross. It's like cancel me and like launch me out of my chair right now.
Oh, but
by saying old is gross, that's so
yeah,
not true.
no, there's this beauty and wisdom in an aged face. But
also-
then I don't know. There's also the pressure of, you know, it's being young and knowing that people treat you differently as you age, and you have to go. I think you have to go through this middle period. That's hard. I think as you get older and older, you just are like, this is part of my life now, and you can accept it. But it's that first transition of being like, my face is literally starting to change.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It'd be like suddenly shaving your head. It would just feel shocking to start seeing that change.
But no, okay.
But
no.
eventually you'd be like, now I just have a shaved head.
Yeah, exactly. I did that when I shaved my head. Cause I am losing my hair. When I shaved my head, I was just like, whoa. It's just like, it feels like I'm like, this looks, I was like, I actually look so bad. I look insane. And then about 10 minutes later, I was like, wait, you look hot. You know what I mean? Like, it's like everything kind of like adapts.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay.
Except wrinkles.
Except wrinkles.
No,
Okay,
it
so
would over time.
This is what I want to say. I think like as someone who's starting to lose my hair, I start to go through that. And then all of a sudden I'm noticing people's hair. So there's something about the knowledge of Botox and like even the way you're like, my friend started pointing out wrinkles. It's like, it's this weird like chicken or the egg thing that makes me like, honestly, like a little bit like sad or like wishing that like it wasn't something all of my friends were doing. Cause I actually don't know if I ever would have like
without the
thought about
local
it.
pressure around, not pressure, but
So-
just local. Like,
and this cosmetic use of Botox is very recent. It's like 1994, right? So our parents like grew up in a generation where that wasn't even an option. That it kind of
I didn't
makes
know
you-
it was that young.
Yeah, it's recent. Like, I mean, not that obviously the bacteria is like, girl, we've been around longer than you.
I didn't know
But,
the
like,
bacteria just got
the
invented.
use for us being like, wait, let's inject in our face, you won't get wrinkles. And you're like, this is a cultural thing that is actually shifting everything. That I actually think I'm like becoming a little Bo Burnham energy now where I'm like, the internet sucks. I'm like, it is sad because it's like without the actual knowledge and technology, people aren't noticing the wrinkles in the same way. They're not noticing the way you can fix them. Then all of a sudden when someone has that wrinkle, like there's this weird knowledge that like sometimes now, like my friends who've got Botox have told me where and why. And then I just like see someone's forehead and I'm like, oh, that's the wrinkles that those people are trying to avoid. But I never would have thought that before. And I'm looking at this face and I'm like, gorgeous face. Like, you know, what an attractive person. But then all of a sudden now I'm focusing on these two lines that I didn't know existed 3 months ago. And I'm like, they have them. And it's like, wait, without that knowledge, I would have just been like, this is a gorgeous face.
You know, not to get religious, but I did grow up and went to Catholic school.
Right.
So if you don't know, the like inceptional creation story of Adam and Eve is that when they like betray God and go to the devil, he makes them self-aware that they're naked and then they go cover themselves. It's like this idea of people being shamed of their own bodies is weirdly like baked. I mean, I'm not obviously a religious scholar. I don't know.
No, but you do. I love that you have religious perspectives. I just don't.
I more mean like there may be other people who be like, you're telling that story wrong. But I'm just for the first time being like,
they
that's
covered because they were sluts.
Well, because often I think of religion representing and religions all over the world kind of representing these tried and tested ideas sometimes. Obviously, like there's a lot of problematic stuff with
like
institutionalized
maybe the Bible
religion.
is like a kind of a good book.
Or
Lots of
you know,
deep
it's
messages.
interesting that it's addressing like this self-awareness that we have as humans causing us shame.
Yeah.
And so it's like you said, once you realize you're naked, once you realize you have wrinkles, now you're ashamed of it, or now you're think about it. It's in your view. In the same way that a new word you get taught and suddenly you actually like, why is everyone saying this word
literally
suddenly?
there's like this wrinkle, I guess it's like right here in between my eyebrows. Never ever noticed, cared. I look in the mirror, I'm like, girl, look and snatch. All of a sudden all my friends are like talking about how they're getting Botox for that literal wrinkle, and now I'm just like, do
I have it?
No. Wait, no. So okay, I guess.
And when do I do like?
No, like frown. Like go. Yeah. So yours are different. Like when I frown, I got a line here. You got like you have other lines. Or I don't even want to
rude.
say them. They're called like 11s or something. But it's just like a very simple Botox fix that everyone gets. But I'm like, it's not like it's changing their attractiveness. It's literally just getting rid of these like two lines in their early 30s. And I weirdly think that it's making them feel good. And then other people go, oh, you don't have those lines. But I don't know. But like now I'm like, damn it, I wish I just didn't even know about this line because I would have never even looked at that part of my face. But okay, so would you get Botox?
Like not right now, no. I won't say never because I don't know how I'll feel as I age. You know, it's just not something that I've fully had to face yet. And I do have, you know, half, you know, South Asian genes. So maybe I won't have to worry about it for a while. No, but someone did comment on one of our TikToks recently. I was like, oh my God, I just realized you had wrinkles and it freaked me out. And then I realized I've been watching you for a decade. And
wait, someone said you...
Yes. And
oh
I was
God.
like, okay, I don't know if this is you trying to not be mean, but it shook me to the core.
Never read the comments. Shit. If you have wrinkle comments, look how many wrinkle comments I have.
But I was like, okay, wow, that's fair. Like we've been doing this for 10 years. Of course I look older now.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing to be ashamed about that. That's why I had the moment at first where I was like, oh my God, that moment of fear of being like, okay, I'm losing something. But then I was like, okay, but that is inevitable.
Yeah, it's like I'm
and I
smart
think if
now.
you can,
I'm older
like it's just
now.
balancing that. And I do think Botox, I mean, it's one thing when you're in an industry that maybe does put a lot of pressure, especially on women, to like, it's way easier because of the patriarchy that men in actors don't have the same standard. They can be wrinkly and look old and still get lots of roles, whereas it's like way harder for a middle-aged or elderly woman to get roles
like you're talking
in
about
Hollywood.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that like actually extends out to
now it's
the music
changing
industry
with,
and the art industry, and like I'm sure there still is a bias towards youth.
Yes.
And so,
but I'm just like now it's changing. It's like with Mayor of Easttown. It's like sorry, but like,
but that's just one
women
thing.
are.
It's not changing.
No,
That's
I'm saying I think we are in an interesting time where I'm maybe just because I'm gay, but I'm like women are killing the acting game. Like I'm just like this like classic, you know, like the Hollywood leading man. I'm like, who the hell is that these days? It's like it feels to me at least like the people really turning out the fucking performances are the women, but I might be ignorant. But it's like who's
It
famous?
might just
it's like,
be what
it's like
you're
Chris
looking at.
Hemsworth. It's like okay, well he just like plays Thor. It's not that.
And he probably has Botox. I mean, I can't say that, but I'm
oh
sure
yeah,
lots
he has
of
Botox in it.
lots of men in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry definitely have Botox.
Oh, it's so normalized in LA for sure. Like sometimes people are like, I don't like when people shame Botox, and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, is that even happening?
Right.
Like, it feels like I was,
if
like,
everyone in
so-
Hollywood is having
Yeah.
it, it's not really like no one's losing anything for it. Of course, there are some people that will always cling to this idea of purity. You can't change your body, otherwise you know what I mean?
But then it's like that's also kind of annoying. It's so
Oh,
interesting.
exactly, yeah,
We're
I think-
so steeped in this culture, and as West people live in like Western cultures, we're so steeped with Botox that I'm also now being like, well, if you think that getting Botox is bad and you want to be pure, I'm like, that also sounds creepy.
Yeah,
all
no,
is
I know,
like,
because it's
yeah.
like it's selective. It's like, well, then you're using fluoride on your teeth. Should you stop doing that? Like, there are lots of things.
Your crest white strip into the teeth.
There's lots of things humans do that we just
Yeah.
now deem as normal and commonplace and acceptable that 1,000 years ago they would be like, you're modifying your body.
Know what it is for me is going back to the literal botulinum toxin and what I just explained physiologically as I think what's stopping me from getting it.
But
I'm
fluoride is a
scared.
toxic chemical.
Yeah, I'm talking
But
just like the
into your own body,
neurophysiology
yeah.
and the way that we learned about it in university. Like, it just scared me.
Like,
I'm just like,
from
it
that,
seems
yeah.
scary. But the more and more people that do it, the more I'm like, that seems more
Well,
safe.
okay. I will talk about, so I really want to talk about not specifically Botox, but aging, and just talk
Yeah.
about some of the science behind aging that obviously leads up to this point of people wanting to get something like
Yeah,
Botox.
okay.
So I recently read the book called Lifespan by David Sinclair. It was amazing. Also, I know a lot of people out there were like, can you guys start a Goodreads book list? And so we can like see which books you're reading and what you think
Oh,
of
that's
them.
smart.
I use Goodreads just to see reviews all the time,
Yeah,
but I've
but
never
we
done
should.
that. But I feel like we are reading so many books and we mention them all the time that it would be cool. It's a really, really interesting book just about what the kind of very current science is on aging, what they see, where it's going in terms of like increasing lifespan and increasing health. I'm going to just share some of my favorite parts of the book. Let me know if I'm rambling too much, but hopefully it will be interesting. Okay, Greg?
Yeah, no,
I found it all really interesting. So first thing, that David Sinclair's main focus of his research is something that they discovered called sirtuins. And these are longevity genes that they found in the body. They found them in yeast, and then they found the comparables in humans.
They found them in the botulism bacteria. I'm kidding. Dude.
So basically, they're epigenetic regulators, which means that based on your environment, triggers how often and how they respond in your body.
Yeah.
And as a result, when they're triggered, they help fight against heart disease, inflammation, cell death, all these things. Like basically, they're regulating your DNA, they're repairing it.
Sorry. 1 second. I'm gonna like try and help clarify.
Okay.
So epigenetics is like I feel like I got confused between what
Fair.
you're talking about and so epigenetics is a way that your genes are controlled by different cellular biology in your body, and therefore epigenetics is an umbrella term for where you can essentially like turn on and off genes.
Yeah.
So then, what are the words that you're talking about?
So sirtuins
Yeah.
are these longevity genes that
Or
based
get turning
on your
that
environment.
through
Yeah,
epigenetically are getting turned on or off.
Well, technically, they turn on and off genes. I think
Okay.
I maybe don't quite understand if it's I think they technically like do something to the histones and unwrap
Yeah,
the genes
okay,
and
okay.
allow those genes to express. So we all have genes, but they're not all on.
Yeah, we
And
got
so
lots of ones being
your
worth using,
environment.
hun.
If you do something chronically, like it could change your
Okay.
epigenetics.
Oh my god, what do we do?
So, basically, the sad part is, or not sad part, but what they've realized is these sirtuins decrease in activity as we age.
Okay, yeah.
But the cool idea is that manageable stress is actually what triggers these longevity genes. So the sirtuins are kind of his main focus, but there are a couple other kinds.
Manageable stress.
So-
Wait. Manageable stress triggers them, as in like quote. I want to use like the simplest language possible.
Okay.
Quote unquote turns them on.
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously stress for your body can be deemed as either good or bad. And it kind of goes to us talking about Botox, where it's like sometimes something isn't good or bad. It's the amount that you take. So broccoli is generally good because you can have a lot of it and it's really healthy. But if you have way too much, it can be toxic.
Oh my god, to be the person who poisoned himself with broccoli, that's iconic.
I know, like, did that ever happen or was it just a
No,
mess?
it didn't happen, but it's a way that they teach toxicology. They're like, even something that you're being told your whole life to eat could kill you.
So this premise is called hormesis, and that it just means it's like there's 3 stages. If you don't have enough, it could be harmful. There's like the Goldilocks zone of these things that
Right.
are stressful for your body but can trigger healthy responses.
Okay.
But you have too much, it's bad.
Yeah.
So things like, in this case, exercise, intermittent fasting.
Oh, wait, slow down. Exercise. It's saying you want to do it, but not
exercise
too much.
Stresses your body out. It
Okay.
releases cortisol. It releases a flux of hormones and it's putting pressure on your bones and muscles. It's actually a stress response, but it's good for you.
Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
like, it's a form of hormesis. Like, not enough exercise is not good for you. Having the right amount in the middle is really healthy. And then if you overdo exercise, it's going to push your body.
So
into-
exercise is an easy one for all of us. It's like, okay, exercise, great, got it.
Yes, and so
I didn't think of that
exercise
as
is an
stress,
example
yeah.
of something that stimulates sirtuins
Okay, cool.
or other longevity genes.
Yeah.
Intermittent fasting. So they've realized calorie restriction is like generally very healthy. Obviously, if you calorie
that's
restrict,
why the Mitchell Moffat over here goes like, oh,
I calorie
what did
restrict-
you say yesterday? It was so funny. You're like, oh, well, I actually only had 2 meals today. So
oh my god!
I'm like, okay, we get it. You didn't eat breakfast on purpose.
on the weekends, I decided to intermittent fast because that's what this book recommended.
Wow. Okay, so it's like, don't starve.
Yes,
but-
obviously starving is unhealthy, but there's a balance of when you're in a deficit, your body is like engages these survival circuits and it boosts cellular defenses, keeps organisms alive during times of adversity, it wards off disease. So that's like
Oh
what's
my
happening.
God. The intermittent fasting heads out there just got a bone.
So ultimately, the main, not the main point, but this main section of the book was there's so many fascinating things that when we put our body through them, it can actually stimulate healthy longevity, like make your life healthier and make you live longer.
Do
Because
these, what are they called again?
sirtuins?
Are they causing wrinkles?
Well,
Or
I
just
can't
aging
say
in
specifically.
general?
It's aging in general,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So, this is not specifically related to wrinkles or skin, but obviously, if your body is biologically younger, it probably
Yeah.
means that it's healthier. Skin will probably last longer in terms of, getting wrinkles. or
No, this is
aging
cool.
spots.
It's like deeper. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking of, a lot of people wonder about how to they do preventative stuff, but that is like cosmetic or medical, but there's lots of preventative stuff you can do in your regular life if you care about aging physically as well as aging like genetically. So there's a perfect example. Identical twins, if one smokes and the other doesn't, the smoker will age physically faster.
Yeah, smoking.
Their skin will change.
goddamn,
The health of their organs will change. So that's a perfect example of epigenetics. Basically the same genome, same DNA, but one twin smokes their whole life, they're actually going to have a completely different body.
Oh gosh,
Fair?
I'm just always like, oh, smoking so bad. And I'm like, damn, I smoked weed for so long. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I know that it's not the same, but it is in many ways.
It is, but I mean, you were hopefully young enough when you stopped. So, I mean, it's never too late to smoke. It's never too late to stop smoking.
You heard it here, folks, on Ain't Up Science. It is never too late to start smoking.
We have a video about
Kidding.
quitting smoking. It truly is never too late to stop.
Yeah, your lungs
Obviously-
can do amazing regenerative things.
Yes. So don't think of it like, oh, I've had
Yeah,
my
it's too
whole
late.
youth,
Yeah,
whatever.
true.
There's not too much I'll share other than when in a lot of their studies, they would stimulate sirtuin activity in mice, not only made them younger physically, they would exercise more. They started outperforming mice that were like a quarter of their age. They would
Man,
run on
all
the...
these mice everywhere with the most whack ass lives. It's wild. That freaking mouse is just all of a sudden like, oh, whoa, I'm younger than an actual
I know.
mouse that's younger than me. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, he has like a really crazy breakthrough moment when they're studying and someone calls him and they're like, these aren't old mice. Like, you've given us the wrong thing. And they realize it's because like,
Oh my God.
and they said they had to rebuild their mouse treadmill or whatever because they broke it because they were using it so
Okay,
much.
they need to make a Pixar movie about lab mice and they're all
That's
like
a good
superheroes
idea.
and stuff.
Oh my God, Greg, that's a really good idea. As in like
And then they're breaking out of their cages.
and each one has like some genetic test on them that gives them special powers.
And it's the nuance, like the genetic power, it like helps them, but also
Wait.
is their vice.
Write the children's book about that and then get Pixar to make it.
Okay, I know I'm speaking this into a mic, so honestly, I'm kind of lazy. Someone else could do that if they want, or I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
That's mostly it. The last fact, and I've told you about this, is another example. It's just extreme cold or heat seem to do the same thing. They push your body out of comfort zone. That's why and they sort of trigger hormones that stimulate longer life because your
So
body
when I was jumping in freezing water in the winter because I was like so bored in a pandemic, there was
potentially
a reason.
good. Yeah, there's more and more science, I think there's pretty hard science in the cold.
Did Wim Hof write this?
He didn't write
kidding.
this, but he's part of that movement of
Yeah.
people being like, there is research to support that putting your body in extreme cold
Extreme,
temperatures, not all the time, but letting your body come out of its comfort zone stimulates these things that start protecting your body.
Wow, I've been going to the beach and the water's so cold and like barely anyone's swimming. I've been full swimming, getting out blue lips.
You're like, I gotta live forever.
Yeah, and I'm just like always like I'm like literally shivering while everyone's like boiling on the beach, and I'm like, this can't be good. But now I'm gonna be so annoying while I'm with my blue lips and be like, actually, I'm just turning on epigenetically the genes that are gonna make me live.
It's probably true. And so, as I said, it's not specifically related to Botox and skin, but honestly, using that smoking example, like the things your body is exposed to over life will impact. I mean, of course, we're all blessed with different genes. We can't change everything. Some people will just naturally age faster, regardless of putting all this work. And so for me,
it really okay. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just think the biggest life goal for me is to find peace with those things.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
And
you can't change
something
them.
like, I don't know. I'm just like, maybe it's hot vax summer. Like I'm feeling very sexual this summer. Just like, ooh. And like, I'm like
With vaccines?
No, hot vax summer.
Okay.
It's like, it means like we're all getting vaccines and everyone's like we're all gonna have like a giant like orgy. Like, cause it's just like everyone's been like,
Pent up.
yeah. Oh my God. Wow. I guess Mitch isn't feeling the hot vax summer vibes. Woo. But I'm like feeling very like free and like sexually liberated and looking at people in like a very sexual way. And I'm like, it's so interesting to me because I feel like sexual energy is so not related to like
physical appearance.
Like
Totally.
and I know we've talked about this before on the podcast, and I don't know if it's just me and something I like, but I'm like, I actually think that we all kind of know that. But like there's just this confidence about someone, like, and it's just so interesting. I'm just curious. I would love to just have like a group session of 20 people and like talk deeply about like when you first see someone versus like 5 minutes later and you are like, am I turned on by them? Like, I just find, to me, Botox and these things, it's like about this initial thing.
Right. From afar, you might be like, wow, that person's beautiful or looks young.
Or young. Like,
yeah. Because obviously there's the other end of the spectrum where you're like, they look weird.
Because also they're like being young, like, so even at the beach recently, I was like hanging out with this like stranger because we were like making like a fire, and like they were obviously like very attractive, but they were 21 and I'm 31, and it was just like, oh, like I'm like so not attracted to you because
your mental state is like at a different
like
stage.
and I felt bad. Like I was actually having this open conversation with people. I was like, I feel bad because it's like this person was objectively so attractive, and I was like, it's actually so interesting because I'm so sorry, it has nothing to do with the way you look. It's just like there is just an energy of someone that young that's very beautiful, but it's not attractive to me because it's like you're on such a different like level.
Yeah, that's
of, like,
fair. And
like,
level, maybe I would say,
what's
is
the
not the right
word?
term because that like kind of makes it feel like there's hierarchies. It's just like a different plane. I feel like plane is this way. So it's like different people occupy different spaces, and an old person and a young person could occupy that same space. But generally, different decades kind of have different life experience, and so are looking for different things.
So yeah, like it's weird
But-
because then you're doing the Botox or you're doing these things to appear younger, while I think simultaneously age is like what brings a level of like confidence and knowingness that is like the hottest. And so I was talking recently to my therapist, and I was talking about how I was like, I feel kind of confident right now. I feel like maybe a year and a half of just like forced self-reflection and like just feeling really like very confident. And she was like, that's age. Like she was like that. She's like, with it, like when I know I keep going back to the beach, but it's like an interesting setting after being locked away where I'm like in the elements. I was like building a fire and feeling and it was like just very like, I don't know, like it was like I felt confident. I was like, I don't think I ever would have made a fire on my own on the beach before because I would have been like so scared of what everyone thought. And then with that is like can be like an attractive force bigger than your face and your appearance that almost age brings. And then age makes you hotter. Like even watching Mare of Easttown, watching her and that like writer, I was like, they're so sexy. They're so like, she knows herself so well. She's been through so much. There's so much like sex appeal to that, and I'm just like, it's so interesting.
Yeah,
I think aging is actually hot.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think it's important to acknowledge that it is both, right? Either way, but I think you can have a more long-term relationship with someone for who they are, and that the surface stuff is the kind of short-term. Like the attraction.
It's literally the
someone
surface of your
sexually-
skin is the surface of the
relationship,
thing.
right? And
Yeah.
it's I think everyone deep down knows
that.
people that are not necessarily quintessentially traditionally attractive, but are so attractive because of their personalities,
Yeah.
because of their humor or their intellect or their talent that's beyond what they physically look like. But I think most people would admit that they are physically attracted to certain types of people or certain types of bodies, or and that can be different. I think people become conditioned. So
Yeah.
definitely, we know culturally society has shifted from jacked bodies to curvy bodies to short people to tall people. Like all those
Yeah.
different things change as culture changes.
Yeah.
So I think like now we could tell ourselves, oh, evolutionary, it makes sense that you want a fit looking body, but that might not, like what our bodies represent right now is not actually necessarily fit.
Yeah.
Right? Like what a freaking Homo erectus was looking like when they were fit would be very different necessarily
Yeah.
than what we like do in the gym now.
Like when you see like lunk alerts, if you go to Planet Fitness, it's like lunk alert alarm goes off if you've got your big jug and you got
And being
those
that
people
jacked
look-
is not like
Yeah.
what a primitive human would have
no,
looked
and it
like
does
ever.
like when you get too jacked, I'm like, that's actually so like I'm like that looks crazy. Like I'm
But
not attracted
it is
to
cultural.
that.
It's preference. You
Yeah.
fall into like as you get close. It's like the Botox thing. It's like you start to see it, and then you go, "Oh, it's
Yes.
kind of weird." But slowly you go, "Oh, maybe that is attractive now that I
Yes.
know it."
There's something about that. It's like about groups. It's like as humans, our brains were always primed to try and like group information and group things. And there's something like if you're really, really jacked, you're probably attracted to other people who are really, really jacked. And then they're like, it's like you're creating yourself into this like in group. So I'm like there at the gym being like, I want to be healthy, but I'm like, that actually doesn't turn me on. But maybe if I got so jacked, I'd start to like appreciate that and like
Right.
understand
Yeah.
like
how
what that
the hard
is.
work that goes into that,
Exactly.
the dedication that can be also attractive.
And
right?
that's the Botox thing for me. I'm like, oh, actually, like my whole life I've been like, I don't have any interest in that. But as like more and more friends are like, this is what it is, and then maybe like more and more attractive friends are doing it, I might start to like, you know, understand these
Recontextualize.
11s on my head and be like, oh, and like recontextualize and be
and
like, it's not attractive.
And you could
to
tell
get
yourself, you
Botox
know
or-
what? It's just I'm taking care of my body in a different way. Like
yeah.
it's not damaging. I like how people do skincare. They moisturize. They put all these different creams because they want to be quote unquote healthy. It just becomes a way of caring about yourself or thinking about yourself. Of course, that can flip the switch to be on the side of like, is this too much?
Yeah.
I don't know where that line is. I don't know. It's obviously different for everyone, but I think even using fitness as an example, like there's always a stage where maybe it goes too far. And we could all agree that like the most strong athletes in the world, it's amazing. It's incredible. See people at these Olympics. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the healthiest, right? Like to
Yeah.
push your body that far is interesting.
Yeah, like gymnasts, they're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we're short because our like bones were like obliterated and we like weren't able to grow. And you're like,
And
oh,
that's
cool.
you're like that is respectable because you cared so much about your craft. That's a different kind of
Yeah.
thing I can appreciate. Doesn't mean I don't know where I'm going with that, but it is interesting to just think about how we contextualize. And probably in 100 years we'll look back and be like, wow, everyone looked so rough.
Yeah, wait, what do you mean?
Well, because not once recently, I saw like footage of like it was like England on the street
oh my
from
god, when
100
they're all
years
like
ago.
eating churn butter
Yeah,
and
and you're
beer.
like they just look so rough, and now
Yeah.
people on like on average today, I think, just look better.
Yeah, in the future they're gonna be like they were sun tanning in the sun that like they looked rough because now everyone's hiding because like a little bit in the sun burns your skin, like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's weird things like the concept of tanning is something that I think is gonna get so like for white people. I mean, it's like I think it's gonna slowly become like
because it ages your skin faster.
yeah, and also I'm just like it's not even gonna be like you're not even gonna be able to go in the sun without like burning like immediately.
Oh yeah, the climate change is just gonna make it way too hot.
But I do think I think we can wrap up soon, but I think it's very cultural, and I think like Kim K and all them have done some really like intense things for the culture, and I think it's important. I mean, I know that's more plastic surgery, but there really is like when you think of how recent Botox is, and then that rise of them as like media moguls and influencer culture and this like literal Photoshop of Instagram on top of
yeah,
like even Instagram
filters.
face, which like Gia Tolentino has a really great New Yorker piece about how plastic surgery and Instagram are working together essentially to create this like placid one size fits all face. And it's just like when you start to look at it in those contexts, you do realize like this could age, no pun intended, age very poorly for a lot of people. Like
Right.
to look the same
we leave
as
the phase
we
of,
like
as that
inevitably
become-
culture is going to shift. And
Yeah.
like depending on how far you push these things, I'm not going to say like
It
anyone
either
will
becomes
regret
wholly
anything.
mainstream or we move on past it. And then people are like, oh, that was
Yeah,
the phase of
but-
like the early 2000s. And
Yeah, but we can't
2020s,
ignore
like-
the internet and the
Yeah.
pressures of Instagram and the pressures of all of these
Mm-hmm.
like literal Photoshop and ability to go into like a like plastic surgeon's office and them to probably just use technology. Like this is what you would look like. Like we're living through that era culturally. I don't personally think it's that interesting, but many people do. And like it could be a very defining feature of our time, whether it stays or goes. Like there's a lot of issues in our world coming up that it might become the time of when we were like, you know, had embarrassment of riches. I mean, now we're about to deal with climate change and people are gonna be like, we don't have time to care about those things. Who knows? Or it's like you look like an elite person and we don't like that anymore because they ruined the planet. Like there's other
Right.
things that could come in, but we can't ignore like the I always say the name Kardashians. Like, and when I look at them, like I saw a recent video of Kylie Jenner, and it was just like, wow, like you're so it's like they don't hide behind it. They're like, this is a form of like feminism for them. They flaunt it. And she looks so like, I don't know how to say it without sounding rude, but it's like without the perfect photo on Instagram and like the snatched makeup and the like angle, it's just like a little bit like looks weird to me. Like I'm not actually that attracted to it, although I'm very attracted to Kylie Jenner's Instagram. Like when I see it, I'm like, holy fuck.
Right.
And then there's also the other thing you have to remember is like as white people, a lot of the things and the trends that we're living through right now is stealing the body types of other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so fucked up. And like that to me doesn't lead to being attractive. It's like a very weird cultural appropriation.
Yeah, there'll
that
be
you're
hopefully
doing
more
through
and more
surgeries.
conversations about that. Yeah, I think.
And it's like so sad to me that Kylie Jenner's lip kit for like her fake big lips became so popular
Right.
amongst probably such a like white audience when really like in the past, like I bet that was like made fun of on
Yeah.
other people. Like there's a lot of darkness to something that like I know we were going to spend this whole time being like, oh, I guess I'll get Botox, but it's all linked to a culture that's
it's really all linked to capitalism, as you've just stated, with selling stuff. And it is just like there's so
Yeah.
many other industries where the same things happened. Even things like fashion, where you're like, well, it's not wrong for people to care about looking a certain way. Like that's self-autonomy to be able to decide how you want to express yourself. But then it's weirdly tied into all these awful things, like
Yeah.
not only industries that destroy the planet, but also industries that warp how people see each other and what speaks
Yeah.
for status and what's nice clothing and what's poor clothing and what's
Yeah.
right. So it's like
Yeah.
so weirdly intertwined, like fashion and our
Oh my god! Now I'm like, I
bodies.
don't want Botox, but Botox is so like I don't know, but it's so interesting. Like it
I've
honestly
always-
is interesting.
I
to
don't
me.
think I will ever get it, but it's kind of, and I don't think this is a good thing, but I have this sort of purist mindset, partially because I'm anxious and I'm afraid to get things done.
Oh yeah, because you will never get a tattoo.
Yeah, because I've always been like, oh, it's my body. And I just like want it to be. I know ultimately as I age, I'm like, this is just a weird belief I've carried since I was young.
Yeah.
But when I was young, I was like, I just want my body to be the way it is. Obviously, a tattoo doesn't change that. But in my mind, it kind of does. And so does plastic surgery. But as I age, I honestly am like, for the first time ever, being like, wait, I have to actually decide because now I'm having those moments where I go, oh my God.
and the
I'm getting
conversations are
older.
coming up. Like,
Yeah.
if you're in your 30s, I don't know if it's just like the groups that we're in, but like this just like, you know, like in every hangout, there's something
Yeah.
comes up, and it's like,
Well, because we're literally like visibly
I think
aging.
it's a 30s thing, and it's like they're interesting conversations. That's what I mean. I'm glad. Like I actually love talking about it. It's so.
I realize 30s is like still so young, but it is so crazy that we've just been like doing this for 10 years and that we were like in our 20s once.
I know, but I'm so
Life is so
happy
weird.
to not be in my. No offense, to everyone in their 20s. It's hard. It's a hard time. Like
To be honest, though, I have found my late 20s into early 30s, I think, has been the hardest time of my life. But hopefully I'm going to get through
oh
that.
wow.
Yeah. I think so.
More on that, or should we end the con and
We can talk about that another time. No, I
Okay.
don't know. And it may not be to do with age. It may be to do with life circumstance. But
okay.
I have sort of felt like I think hopefully into my mid and late 30s. And I have read studies that say people gain more optimism every decade of their life until I think like the 60s it starts declining a bit.
Okay, it's so sad.
No, but that
until you get
I
really
don't-
close to when you're gonna go.
But so I just mean hopefully that will kick in for me soon.
Oh wow. Oh my god. We need to end because I'm like, that is leading to so many questions.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Maybe we can start a Goodreads book list soon. That's something.
Oh, Goodreads. I thought I said good weeds. I'm like, I'll be on that one. We got
Goodreads,
sativa, we got indica. Which ones you
Goodreads
want?
strain. I wonder if that's a website. Okay, we have a lot of great ideas on this pod for people to start up their own little companies.
Yeah. Credit us if you want. And we'll let you know if we got Botox.
Yeah, or you might notice if you're watching. If you're listening, you'll just never know.
Yeah, true.
But we'll talk sexier for you. Okay, see you guys next week.
Peace.